Wow, universe?
Isn't she something? Well, you two have a good night.
I give you Krabby Land!
Well, it's finally confirmed. Epic Universe will open to the public next year in 2025 on May 22nd. That's right, Memorial Day weekend. Universal is gunning for one of the most crowded times during the year. Honestly, I didn't expect that. I thought Epic Universe would be opening sometime in August. But no, they are going for that Memorial weekend opening. And I am beyond excited. Of course, I'm not going to be there for the first 2 months of its opening. I'm not insane. The crowds are going to be intense. In fact, the entire first year is going to be intense. I can't imagine there's going to be a single day where the park's not going to be packed. But when I eventually get to Epic Universe, I can't wait to experience everything the park has to offer. All 5 lands, all 11 rides, every single detail Universal has constructed inch by inch. It is definitely going to be worth the hype, and I do think this could be the best theme park in America. Now keep in mind, I don't say that lightly. There are a lot of parks out there, and a lot of them are spectacular. Originally, I would have said the best theme park would be Islands of Adventure or the original Disneyland. And trust me, I know it sounds a little premature to call Epic Universe the very best before it's even complete. But God, just look at this work of art. It just really makes you think, man, Universal is way better at building new parks than Disney. Universal is opening a park that, frankly, looks like it would take Disney 30 years to complete. Epic Universe has so many attractions and experiences that it doesn't really compare to a typical theme park opening. When I reflect on other theme parks that open in America from both Universal and Disney, there is a clear distinction in quality. Universal, whenever they open a new park, they make sure it's complete. A full 1 to 2 day experience with a multitude of rides and no dead spaces that seem unfinished. It's something that Universal doesn't really get a lot of credit for. When I compare a new Universal park to a new Disney park, it's night and day. Universal parks just have more rides, more attractions, and more offerings for its guests. Compared to Disney, where their new theme parks, they were always incomplete, lackluster, and tiny. Each new Disney park was very minimal and didn't offer enough stuff to do. I know, I sound harsh. Why would I talk about Disney in this kind of light? After all, Disney, they are the titan of their industry. When you hear the phrase theme park, this company usually comes to mind. But when you look at Disney's track record of opening a new gate for one of their properties, it's not particularly stellar. For example, if we turn back the clock to when Disney started debuting their quote-unquote newer parks, and I say quote-unquote because these properties were built over 20 to 30 years ago, you could tell that these parks, they weren't really up to the traditional Disney standard. Hollywood Studios, it was a small park, it didn't have a lot of rides. Animal Kingdom, it was a lot more grand, however, same issue, didn't have a lot of stuff to do. California Adventure, big dumpster fire. That did not go well. The point I'm trying to make is that Disney, they kind of dropped the ball on all these properties. Each and every one of these parks, they weren't a full day experience, and certain sections of each park kind of felt cheap. Obviously, today in the present, that's not the same case for the most part. These Disney parks have evolved so much from when they first opened, but when they did debut back in the day, you can definitely tell that Disney didn't give each park all their undivided attention. If for some reason you don't believe me, let me just show you what I'm talking about. When we look at a park like Disney's Hollywood Studios, or at the time when it opened back in 1989, Disney's MGM Studios, you can tell that their ride collection was, inadequate. Before the days of Tower of Terror or Rock and Roller Coaster, they only had 2 rides when they opened. That was the Great Movie Ride, which I really miss. It was a slow-moving ride that took you through the Chinese theater to show you all the American movie classics. And then there was the Studio Backlot Tour. This was a combination of a tram and walking tour to give you a close-up view of a production and film set, basically giving you the behind the scenes of movies, which was essentially the entire theme of the park. They wanted to show you the production side of films. But besides those two rides and, of course, the Indiana Jones Stuntacular, the park didn't have anything else when they first opened. You could only do Great Movie Ride, Backlot, and Indiana Jones. That's it. Of course, later that year in December, they opened Star Tours, but I don't like that thing, so who cares? But for the time being, Hollywood Studios, they didn't really have anything. It took about 5 years for them to get their next major addition, that being their Sunset Boulevard expansion and the installation of the Tower of Terror. And then it took another 5 for the Rock and Roller Coaster to be built. All in all, I would say it took over 30 years for Hollywood Studios to feel like a full-day park. Because up until 2017, when the Great Movie Ride closed, all they had was Tower Terror, Rock and Roller Coaster, and Star Tours. Oh, and Toy Story Mania. Forgot that thing even existed. All in all, Hollywood Studios, it didn't really feel complete until 2019, when Toy Story Land and Star Wars Land were finally finished. So it took 3 decades for the park to get a grand total of 8 rides, not including any shows. Meanwhile, Epic Universe, it's opening with 11 rides right off the bat. And if you think Hollywood Studios is an isolated incident, well, then you haven't been paying attention, because Animal Kingdom doesn't fare much better. When the park opened in 1998, it was the exact same situation as Hollywood Studios. It only had 2 rides, those being Dinosaur and Kilimanjaro Safari. But they did also have 2 shows, one being the Festival of the Lion King, and the other being It's Tough to Be a Bug. I can somewhat excuse Animal Kingdom's lack of attraction slightly, just because the main marketing draw was the animals. The park had multiple trails and walking paths so you can observe the animals. Essentially, Animal Kingdom was one big zoo. And something about Animal Kingdom that I like way more than Hollywood Studios is the fact that it's way more detailed and there's shade. I don't know if you noticed, Hollywood Studios, there's no shade in that park. Animal Kingdom, you're surrounded by nature and trees and decrepit buildings that look like they were there for ages. But was ambience alone enough to salvage this park when it first opened? It's a little tough to say, because I like walking around Animal Kingdom. I could probably lap the park a few times without getting tired. But eventually, I want to go on a ride. And when my only 2 options are the Safari and Dinosaur, I'm probably going to get a little bored. Which is why Animal Kingdom, it had a title of being a half-day park up until, God, Avatar. It took until 2017 for it to feel like a full-day park. And heck, I still think Disney doesn't think it's a full-day park. Most of the time today, Animal Kingdom closes at 6 p.m. So not even Disney believes that it's worth keeping the park open later in the day. I don't think you can use the excuse that they close earlier because of the animals, because that's not true. The park used to be open till 9 o'clock when Avatar opened. And if not that, if we look at a similar park to Animal Kingdom, Busch Gardens Tampa, they're usually open till 11 o'clock, even though they're also an animal-driven park. So I think their short operating hours is strictly because of labor costs. They don't want to keep the park open late if they don't believe it's worth the added expense. Animal Kingdom, unfortunately, by definition, is still a half-day park, even after 25 years since the park's conception. And I wish this was the only issue Animal Kingdom still had, but we still have to look at the elephant in the room, Dinoland USA. I don't know why Disney built this with Animal Kingdom. It's just a pop-up carnival in a parking lot. It doesn't fit in with Disney, it doesn't fit in with Animal Kingdom. It's the definition of a cheap, budget cut land that didn't need to exist. But I'm happy that now, after 26 years, they're finally getting rid of this land. Goodbye and good riddance. So, as you can see, Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom, they both had rocky, minimal openings, and it took them decades to get them to where they are today. And that also goes for our last park of discussion, California Adventure. I'm gonna be quick with this place because it is such low-hanging fruit. When you think of a failed Disney park, this place comes to mind. The whole conception of a California theme park in California was doomed to fail. If you know anything about the history of this theme park, it was originally supposed to be a Western version of Epcot, Westcott, until Disney, they fell out of love with that project and decided to cut the budget by 66%. They scrapped the entire Westcott proposal and came up with this idea, California Adventure. The park itself, it wasn't really anything to look at, but how was the attractions? Did they have a large collection of rides? Well, actually, yes, they had 12. Unfortunately, they were all pretty bad. Paradise Pier itself had rides that were nothing like a traditional Disney attraction. Instead of dark rides, they opted for flat rides. They got a swing, they got a wild mouse, a drop tower. It was meant to mimic a boardwalk amusement park. That is not Disney. It's actually the complete opposite of Disney. Why did they think carnival rides would be a good idea? Was Dinoland that successful they thought they should do it again? The only ride at California Adventure that actually felt like a Disney-approved attraction was Soarin'. Everything else, cheap, poor, bland. And let us not forget that this is the park that gave us Superstar Limo, a ride that is highly regarded to be the worst thing Disney has ever created. I still don't know why they themed an entire ride to D-list celebrities. Oh well, that ride failed miserably anyway, and it will be forgotten forever. As you can see, California Adventure, it had a rocky start. And fortunately, the park has gotten better over the years, primarily from additions like Cars Land and Guardians, which are still the only reasons why I go to California Adventure. The park today, it feels like a hodgepodge of IPs and failed ideas, and it just doesn't work. I really wish they can tear down the place and try again. But at this point today, Disney's best course of action would be to completely rebrand the park. Disney and their quest for expansion has yielded a lot of mistakes. They haven't opened a new park in America for over 20 years, and when they did, it wasn't that remarkable. Once again, if we compare Disney to the competition, Universal, they have definitely mastered the art of building a new theme park. Now, of course, Universal, they didn't start out this way. The Universal Orlando Park back in 1990 was kind of a train wreck. The park, they only had 4 rides: Jaws, Confrontation, Disaster, and E.T., and most of the time they were closed or didn't even open. Jaws, in fact, had so many technical difficulties that it shut down and didn't open until 1993. Things didn't settle until around a year later when Back to the Future opened. But after the underwhelming debut of Universal Studios Orlando, Universal, they took notes, and for their next park, Islands of Adventure, they came back swinging. This park felt complete. There were plenty of rides to do, there were multiple theme park lands, and nothing felt rushed or underfunded. No, Islands of Adventure essentially came out exactly the way Universal wanted. The park didn't even add a new addition until 2010 because they didn't really need anything new. But when they did unveil something new, the park only got better. They installed the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, they built Hagrid's, they got Kong, they built Velocicoaster. Islands was everything a new park should have been. And now, 26 years later, Universal has only raised the bar. Epic Universe will be bigger than Islands of Adventure. It'll be bigger than Universal Studios. It'll be bigger than any park Disney has ever built. Universal has set a new precedent for theme parks. Disney can no longer half-ass a new park if they choose to build one again, because Universal has shown them that there is no excuse in being cheap with your ambitions.